All right, Elijah, you want to start with something new, a new little segment, a little opening segment or something that we
Yeah,
can.
but first you have to say, welcome to the episode one
Oh, you want me to
show.
actually do that part?
We
Okay.
have to do that part. It's part of the thing. But please include this whole section that we
This whole
just,
part.
this whole part.
I want to put this in the Patreon. You know,
This,
like the raw, uncut, almost. We can't.
you know what?
We have to cut
That's a
some stuff.
good, that's a good segue to why you should join our Patreon.
Yeah. Welcome everybody to the episode one show.
Bow, 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 bow.
Yes, sir. Listen, we are doing something new. We're starting it off a little bit different than we have in the past, isn't that right, Elijah? First of all,
Yeah,
we do.
sloppily.
Yeah, well, true, but there's something that we have been talking about for a while because we like to wear themed T-shirts. Okay,
Mm-mm.
so we've been having like a little T-shirt battle, but we
Yeah,
haven't
we
been
have.
able to really show it because we haven't really been putting things on video. But now we're
Mm-hmm.
starting to do that.
Now we are. We're on
We are
YouTube.
on YouTube. We're
With all the
looking professional.
kids.
Yeah, we're
With all the
looking.
kids. Riz, Skibbity
Please
Toilet.
don't do that, please. Okay. All right, listen. What is? I mean, you can clearly see my shirt. All right,
You got to describe it for the
I mean,
non-YouTube.
for the non-YouTube, I'm wearing a classic Jurassic Park T-shirt. This was like my favorite movie growing up. It kind of still is my favorite movie. It was the movie I saw with my dad as a young boy, probably a five, I want to say. And it was,
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the first time I saw my dad scared, like ever.
Bam,
And
that's
it
pretty
just
dope.
trips me out because of where movies have gone up to this point.
Uh-huh.
Like
Yeah,
Jurassic
don't
Park
show
is
your
not scary anymore.
don't show your dad Terrifier 3.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what that is, but I'm sure he would not be interested.
No, not at all. Not at all.
What you got? What you got? What's your T-shirt?
I am wearing an Anoni t-shirt. I don't know if you know that artist, Anoni.
I don't. And it
Uh,
kind of disappeared a little bit.
Anoni is a trans singer songwriter. It's hard to describe her music. It's a little like if like Nick Cave and Billie Holiday had like a love child and it
Okay.
was a white trans woman. That's kind of her music. And it's so dope. I saw her at a concert at BAM and she put on such an amazing show. And so been one of my favorite artists for a long time. So Anoni,
Word.
that's my t-shirt. She's like wearing a wedding veil
Word.
and
Word.
looks
Word.
like a zombie.
Nice. I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and say that you win because this is like very basic. You know what I mean? I didn't really try. I didn't really try that hard this time. You know, I think part of it is like the nature of the art that it represents. And
Right.
Jurassic Park has gone downhill as a franchise, even though the original and honestly the first three, I think, were solid.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask me.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of what things have not gone downhill, the righteous gemstones.
Yeah. Yes. Welcome everybody to the episode one show. We are covering the righteous gemstones. First things first. Apologize for my scratchy voice. I try to get a little bit of honey, but these allergies in North Carolina are kicking my butt.
Yeah.
Though, we do have some announcements. We want to put this at the top because we're not sure you're listening all the way to the end. We don't know. Actually, I hope you are.
Probably not.
If you're not, we want to invite you to go to our Patreon page. That's patreon.com/the episode one show. You can also follow us on Instagram. You can follow me at Colin the producer, and Elijah. Where can you find you?
And you can follow me at Julian Lodge Martinez. And we also have another big announcement in addition to us gearing up for our first narrative podcast, Holy
Mhm.
Land, which will start recording in May.
Mhm.
We are also officially top 10% globally listening, which
Yes.
is what Colin told me is pretty cool, but also like it's not as cool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, there's 3 million plus podcasts. If you get into the top 10, you represent a small town of podcasters or like a relatively large town of podcasters, a medium-sized town of podcasters, but
It is
in the entire world, that's pretty good, right?
pretty good. Yeah.
So we fell into that. I found that out doing a little research, looking up some other podcasts. And I was like, let me go ahead and put my podcast in there and see what
Mm-hmm.
happens. I can be honest, the rest of my podcast didn't even crack that. So the good thing is at least one of mine that I've produced or and am on has. So I'm really happy about that. So yeah, thank you. That's a testament to all of you that continue to listen and download.
Mm-hmm.
There's something on this called I don't, there's all these little like data analytics along podcasting, which we don't have to get into, but I'll just
Mm-hmm.
say this: for those who do listen, make sure that you give us 5 stars, you
Yep.
comment, all these extra things like make the algorithm do things that
Yeah.
I say that as if I understand what the algorithm really does, but I don't. But we just want to give you guys something at the top of the show to encourage you to continue to engage with our podcast, and we appreciate you.
Yes. Like,
Oh,
subscribe, give us 5 comments, tell your mama, tell your sister, tell your brother, tell your nephew,
yeah,
tell your cousin, tell everybody. If
yeah.
they like
Hopefully,
TV,
and
listen to the show.
and we will make sure that this is a show that you'll want to go tell. We'll also we'll hold up our end of the bargain on that
Mm-hmm.
in that way. We'll make
Yes.
sure that we are a podcast that you want to share. We're not just
Yes.
begging you to share.
Yes.
All right, now with
Yes.
that said, hopefully we'll do that
That long
right
ass
now.
intro. If y'all still listening.
Right. We're hope now. Now I'm like, okay, now we got to really do that. Like now. Yeah. So yeah, we're covering the Righteous Gemstones. Righteous Gemstones is in their final season. Elijah
Yeah.
brought that to my attention. Actually, I was sitting down with some friends who asked me if I was watching the show. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
no, but my podcast is about to cover it.
Mm-hmm.
I always try to throw out the episode one show when I can.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like Elijah, what's your relationship to this show?
Well, funny, my dad literally texted me and my brother on our text thread yesterday, being like, "You guys need to watch The Righteous Gemstone," and both me and my brother left him on red. So, I watched actually the first. I was surprised I did this. I forgot I did it. I watched the first season all the way through.
Mm,
I just I don't particularly remember it because it dropped right around the pandemic, and
mm-hmm.
so I do not remember a goddamn thing that I watched during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So, but I apparently watched the entire first season way back when.
Yeah. Well, for me, I did. I saw when it came out. I was like, I feel like it was at the point where I began to think that Danny McBride was becoming like Adam Sandler of TV. Like,
This is true.
you know what I mean? Like
That's a
he's
good
the
comp.
guy who I mean, but I can say like, especially after reading this script and also watching this pilot, this dude is really, really good.
Yeah,
Like
he's
Eddie
really good.
McBride is underrated for sure.
He low key he's like Danny McBride is to comedy acting the way that Ben Stiller has become to genre TV.
Yeah, at this point, yeah.
Like low key, like just quietly, like just not even no, not even no, not Ben Stiller, Hero Murai.
Oh,
Danny McBride
hero.
is
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Danny McBride is the comedy what Hero Murai is to like drama and racial TV.
Yeah, Danny McBride. I remember seeing Vice Principals and thinking that was funny. I
Mm-hmm.
remember not watching Eastbound and Down. Something about I think there was something about North Carolina. Oh, shout out to Danny McBride, UNCSA alum, a fighting pickle like myself. Um, but I think something about his Danny Powers character made me think it was going to be racist. I
Uh-huh.
didn't, and I didn't want to be a part of
He
it.
he has such a great take on lampooning
Yeah.
um southern culture, but not in a way that feels, and I don't know, because like he could actually, there could be a swath of people on the other side being like, nah, fuck him. But like for me watching it, it always feels like it is just on the edge of like, yeah, this could actually potentially be extremely problematic, but because he's coming at it in a way that um feels like he is actually critiquing that culture from an understanding of that culture.
Oh
It
yeah.
doesn't feel like he's like a coastal elite
No.
lampooning, but it also doesn't feel like he is also like, you know what I mean? Because there's certain other comedy out there now that is like in reaction to like wokeness and the fact that like it's now like being like, yo, fuck wokeness, so I'm gonna do what I want. He seems to be skirting the line of like looking at these characters in a critical eye, but also looking at these characters from a critical eye from inside the culture, you know?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean that, and I think that's the best way that satire can live.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you can tell he's been in a church like this before. You can
Right.
tell, or he's been aware of churches like this before. You can tell just by the writing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
me personally, I'm a person who's abandoned religion and Christianity a while ago to get into some personal stuff, but whatever. So for me, like this was
We talked about my socialist leanings. You could talk about your heathenistic
yeah,
abandoning of the church.
yeah. So yeah, so that's my story. So like watching this show, I definitely identified with it. I found the humor in it, but also I
Mm-hmm.
I understand like this, that he is coming at it from a perspective of somebody who has been embedded in the culture, at least because in the South, like this is like the what we're watching on the Righteous Gemstones is a part of Southern culture, whether you are a part of it or not. Like
Right.
you are keenly aware of it, even if you've never been to a mega church.
Right.
Unfortunately, I have been to a mega church, and this was around the time when I was like, I don't want to be a part of this, but my partner was. At the
Uh-huh.
time, she was
Uh-huh.
kind of like about to be leaving, and
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, I'll go to support you because I love you, and it was so similar to what we see, some scenes that we see in this show, and I was just like, oh my god, this is too good. So clearly, he has a very keen understanding of what this culture
Yes.
is, Southern culture, religious culture. I mean, even in Vice Principals, and in some episodes I've seen of Eastbound and Down, he hits a nail
Right.
on the head.
Right, right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's a good segue into like breaking down the background cuz that's my thing
Mm-hmm.
and I did my research today.
Mm-hmm.
And also like all the all the names are American
Easy,
and easy
easy to
and
read
thus easy
for
for
you.
my dyslexic behind. And that is problematic. I'm going to say that's problematic and I will do better because we are now
You
10%
have
globally. Yeah.
you have dyslexia, man. It's okay.
That's not in
Do
his
you really have
genes.
it?
I do. Well, my professor at Yale thought I did, but he also thought all the black guys did.
Oh, you
So that
motherfucker.
could just be racism.
Bitch ass.
Anyway,
Sorry, you bitch.
anyway, um, all right. So, The Righteous Gemstones, the title of this pilot is The Righteous Gemstones, is written and created by Danny McBride, directed by Danny McBride, which I was surprised by
Mm-hmm.
that.
Me too.
Starring Danny McBride, Adam Devine, Eddie Patterson, and John Goodman. It premiered August 18th, 2019 on HBO Max. But before it was like HBO Max, it might have been like HBO Go then.
Go. Was that the go
Yeah,
time?
that
Was
was
it
the
go
go time.
time? That was
Yeah,
the worst, man. That app was terrible.
that was shit.
Yeah, that was a bad time for. But it's crazy, like to be a channel that has such great TV, and then you
That's
create
such
this
a shitty app
terrible app.
because it is hard to make a good streaming app. As Netflix is, it's hard to do short form video, which TikTok is showing us, and it's hard to do a good streaming app, which Netflix is also showing us.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you go to TikTok for short form video and you go to Netflix for streaming.
That was very true.
That was a non sequitur. Let's hit the elevator pitch.
All right, I'm gonna ask you to do the elevator pitch this time. I've done it a
God
couple
damn it!
times. I need
Damn
you.
it! Damn it!
I need you
Damn
to
it.
take this
I
on for
know
me.
you wanted me to take it seriously. Um,
You don't have to take
okay,
it that seriously.
I'll do the best I can. I'm gonna pitch this to you're John Goodman. I'm gonna pitch this to you.
Okay.
All right, ready?
Yeah. Cue the music.
Hey, John.
How you doing? Sorry.
Sound
Go
like
ahead.
you're having allergies.
I am.
Well, hey man, I got a show for you. I know that you are deeply embedded in the reboot of that show that you used to be on that you now
Mm-hmm.
call The Connors
That's right.
after you kick out your lead because she said some racist problematic things.
That's
Um
absolutely. That's right.
so you're gonna need a transition. I got a show for you. So here's the pitch. When the eldest son, which I'm Danny McBride, when the eldest son, played by me, of a wealthy evangelical dynasty is blackmailed for illicit activities. So I'm gonna put lots of like cocaine and titties in this because this is already got HBO money, so we can put as many titties and cocaine as we want.
Yes, we can.
The three children race to stem the damage before the patriarch, which you're gonna play, finds out. It's gonna be comedy, but it's also gonna get into some pretty deep themes about like the nature of religion, capitalism, and how it might corrupt religion, and also what happens to a family when the person that has been holding the family together passes, and the family has to shift and change to fill that void and that hole. And also, what does grief look like for all of us?
Mm, I like that. I like that pitch. You know what I like about that pitch, Elijah? Is
What?
because you
The rampant nudity that I'm probably going to put in it?
no, I think you appeal to the character that who you're pitching to is gonna play more,
Yes,
which I thought that was smart,
which is you.
which is me. Yeah. No, I've already switched back to being
Oh,
comical.
okay. You're out of character.
Yeah, I
You
left. I
don't.
left.
You're not method. You're not doing
Mm-mm,
this method.
I left. I'm back. So yeah, I love the pitch. Let's jump into the opening of the Righteous Gemstones. The
Mm,
reason why the opening is so important. This is kind of like my favorite thing to do is kind of like analyze the openings of shows and why they're important.
mhm.
So the opening of Righteous Gemstones is hilarious, okay? Because first of all, the beautiful thing is it puts you in one, it puts you in a different country. It kind of like disorients you because not only are you in a different country, but you're also inside of a pool. And I read the script, and the scene for the opening is exactly, I mean, it's like every line, everything that happens, everything is like exactly script to screen in
Wow.
this. Yeah. So they're in a pool, right? Which is, remember the Pope in the pool? I wonder if that's what they were trying to do, actually.
I
They're,
I do not, because Danny McBride seems like such a smart dude. I
yeah,
feel like the pool, there's so many layers to the fact that they're in a pool, the fact that they're doing a baptism in a wave pool,
yeah,
the fact that like they're doing a baptism in a wave pool in China, the fact that like you have the Pope in the pool as a concept within TV.
yeah.
Like I think all of those things are just like
Very
layers upon
thoughtful.
layers. Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So again, it like sorry, lends way more to Danny Bride's genius in a way, also just kind of putting that kind of like meta beat in there. But they're inside of the pool, and what you're getting from them is they're doing a baptism, but we're learning about their dynamics as a family, right?
Yeah,
We're learning
instantly.
about like who the father is and like where he is hierarchical in this
Hmm.
family, where he fits in the patriarchy of this family, how the kids regard him, how the older brother regards the younger one.
Hmm.
They're giving each other advice, and it's hilarious. I mean, he's like, look, it's smooth motions, like you're everybody's getting water up their nose,
Hmm.
and also like this is one thing I wanted to know, like about the when he said we've got a bogey, and he was trying to get the Chinese guy to not take pictures. What was that?
Uh-huh.
What did you feel about was that about?
It felt like it felt like it felt like it was just kind of like, honestly, like signaling for us just like kind of the nature of like what they're trying to do. So what's weird about them is that, one, they're doing a pretty sacred thing within Christianity, which is like the baptism, right? So that in and of itself is like an extremely important ritual. However, they're doing this extremely important ritual in a basically a theme park. You know what I mean? In a theme
Right.
park. Uh and while they're doing it, they're doing it on a large scale. So like there's like a massive, like, kind of like, there's no possible way that like they could actually be giving these people exactly what a baptism is supposed to be. They're just trying to
Right.
do as many
As
as
many as
as
possible.
many as possible. And then what's also funny is that they are filming this themselves for content.
Yeah.
However, they do not want other people to film for their own content. So there's a sense of like ownership over the activity and the action. which in 2019 we're in the influencer economy, but it's not as like extreme as like where we are right now. So there, I think there's a lot of like just I think there's a lot of like just like signaling for us in terms of like foreshadowing of like what kind of society we actually are going to start walking into.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I think that's where that's coming from. I think like basically what it's showing us is like they don't want people to take pictures of this event, even though they're taking pictures of the event. It shows us the hypocrisy that is the
Yeah,
righteous
it's
gemstones.
kind of like the insulation that their family wants to have. They want to be able to control the narrative, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't
Right,
want anybody to be able to take their image in any kind of way and put it out into the world. They want to make sure
right,
that they have complete control over it.
right,
And then the funny thing is, like right after that, they lose complete control because
right,
somebody turns on the wave pool, and then
right,
everybody's sloshing all over the place,
right,
which they need to also keep under containment, right? Like they
right.
can't get that part can't get out. And as you
Nope.
see later on, when they share it, of course they don't share that part.
Right, right,
They have a
right,
conversation about it internally, but they don't share that out into the world.
right. And it's also like it's a huge metaphor for just them in general. You know what I mean? Like the literal water that they're using to like to purify their following, it becomes the thing that destroys the event, you know, and becomes the thing that they can't even stop or push back against the rising tides. And it's also what's also interesting about it is somebody turns on the thing, they
Right.
don't turn on the thing. So it's like it's almost as if like the incompetence that they're surrounded by um is something that they themselves have no real kind of control over, maybe because they actually just aren't paying that much attention, or and I just galaxy brain this shit, this thing just
Mm-hmm.
came up to me, or it's a literal act of God, and because they're doing something that is in, you know, in aversion to what God's thing is, that is causing their inevitable kind of bad luck and downfall, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Interesting. No, I love all that.
We need to get, hey Danny, if you're listening to this, come to our show.
I know. Yeah,
Come
I
on a
want to talk
show.
to you about
I
that. And
want to talk to you.
it's so
Mr.
funny.
McBride, excuse me, Mr. McBride.
Right
If you're here,
after that, after watching the episode a couple times, I feel like I gotta call him Mr. McBride. I'm like, wow,
exactly.
that was really brilliant. But yeah, that was a brilliant analysis too. I didn't really think about it in those ways. But yeah, that was excellent. But yeah, how did it make me feel after watching it? Like one, it was like it's hilarious for you to put there's something about Christianity where like if you do something sacred in outside of a sacred space, it
Mhm.
like taints it a little bit. And for them, as ridiculous as they looked, watching the show, we already know this is going to be like a satire of Christianity. It was just it was like it would be cringy for a Christian to watch that, but they
Right,
would want to laugh. You know what I mean?
right, right.
So that I think that was also part of the feeling that was trying to be achieved through that opening.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I got, you know, and I thought it becomes such a funny, for me it was just such a funny way to kind of introduce the show. The first time I watched it, I was like, oh, this is hilarious. I know what kind of show
yeah,
I'm gonna get. I'm gonna get a little slapstick. I'm gonna get a little like family bickering. I'm gonna get a lot of like spoofing of this of a culture that my based on my politics I have, you know, some questions about. Um but ultimately, you know, I was like, oh, this is gonna be fun. And then upon rewatching, I go, wow, this is actually extremely deep. I remember like our friend of the pod, Kira, would often say that like no scene in a TV show, there should never be banter in a TV show. No, there, it always should be driving the story forward in some sort of capacity. And the fact that this teaser, even though on the surface just looks like a slapstick kind of thing, actually gives us all of the relationship information that we need from our three mains, as well as actually sets up some of the other issues that they're going to be now dealing with as they move forward. It's
mm-hmm.
not just like a one and done. Like the father is going to bring up the fact that that was a disaster and be a big kind of like compelling drive for him for the rest of the show. You know, it's so
Right,
it's and
because
then the
yeah,
mm-hmm,
what they're doing also is they're setting up. It's interesting that this particular scene sets up Eli's story more so
Right.
than anybody else's.
Right.
Being the connection to his wife, as well. So like that,
Right.
you're right. They like layer in all these things, make it funny, make it
Right.
ridiculous, make it slapstick, throw in some like sacrilegion into it, um, and some ridiculous like banter between the characters. But like you said, the banter isn't really banter, right?
No, no, not at all.
So yeah, that was a kind of brilliant opening.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And the world
Um,
building too. World building outside of a country is kind of crazy. Like you're able to
yeah, yeah, yeah,
let us know what the
yeah,
show is going to be for the rest of the series, even when
yeah.
you're not in its setting, its foundational
Right,
setting.
right, right. Yeah. And that's a, and that's a great way for us to like lean into the world building. What did you notice as we move past the teaser, past the title screen, and we actually get our real introduction of our not only of our mains, but we also get the sister and a few of our supporting characters as well in the next scene.
Yeah, yeah. So this was hilarious and also brilliant as well, right? So now we're getting a chance to see the level of wealth that we're dealing with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing we see like a PJ come down, and then we see like a push in on two PJs in the hangar just sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
One called the Father, the other one called the Son, and then the one that pulls up is called the Holy Ghost. The one that the one that the gemstones get out of calls the Holy Ghost. The staff walks in like a flying V towards them, like ritualistically, with the brother Martin at the head, which I want to say in the script was like 40s a Kenyan man. I want to say
Yeah.
in the script. And so like you get his advisor, you find out, okay, there's something interesting also about Christianity too, where there's like racism and also like embrace of other
Mm-hmm.
cultures and race in an interesting way, but only on like a surface and a subservient level. So like we see a black man in this space where you would typically think that a southern family might be having aversion to having
Right.
black people in their space, but this is a black man who's like a trusted advisor. He
Mm-hmm.
walks up and you clearly understand that he has an important place in this family. But then you have the daughter that comes up. The daughter is like pining for her father's attention. In the script, she says, I think she gives like a greeting in Chinese, and then like he says, "Yeah, that's great, baby." And then like he turns around and like rolls his eyes. In the script, he rolls his eyes, and this one he doesn't, which I think was a great choice because it kind of shows but you don't need the eye rolling. You know what I
No, you
mean?
don't. You know. Yeah.
Because you can feel like he's just like, yeah, okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
And she feels terrible that she's been left behind. The brothers, who are clearly idiots, got a chance to do this, but I think what they also don't do is like they don't position Judy as being somebody who's like competent either. You know
No.
what I mean? Usually they'll be like, I'm the daughter, I should have the chance because I'm smart. No,
Mhm.
that's not what's happening here. She's just as dumb as the other ones, but she's just
Right.
being subjugated purely uh,
Because there's a yeah.
because she's a woman.
It's giving severance in so many ways. Like you have the older patriarch who had through grit and hard work and like competence has managed to build this massive empire, but this massive empire, the extravagance and the wealth has basically infantilized his adult children, and now
Mm-hmm.
they're in a state of arrested development. And he is now looking at his empire being like, okay, who's going to now be the successor for my empire? And he's looking at the folks that are around him, and he's realizing that none of them can be. It's also like it's very King Lear
Yeah,
in that sense.
succession,
Mm-hmm.
all those things. Yeah, and so like we're getting that right away, but again, we're seeing extreme wealth at the same time, similar
Right.
to Succession, but also just with a different sheen, a different.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
feels like new money. It doesn't feel like old money.
Right.
As they drive onto the compound, I mean, there's a couple of great things that happen there. They drive onto the compound. You see a sign that says like, uh, I think it's a verse from the Bible. I can't remember right now, but it says something like, "Blessed are the poor at heart or poor in spirit, for they will inherit the earth," or something like that.
Uh-huh.
As they drive onto this like palatial, verdant like compound with giant McMansions that each one of them live in like
Mm-hmm.
individually. And they drive past also. This is the other thing I loved, and I don't think this was in the script, is when they drove past inside of the compound, they had security like doing drills, like shooting drills.
Oh yeah, yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
Right. So
yeah.
like they were also showing like not only like we're wealthy, we are also defended,
Mm-hmm.
but also like this is the South. Like we employ our own security. But anytime
A
you see,
private, we have a private military. We
yeah,
have
we have
we
a
have
yes,
paramilitary group.
yes, we have a paramilitary group working on our campus where we live
Mm-hmm.
that are doing drills like when we're not there,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
preparing for whatever might come our way.
Right.
But each of them go to their individual mansions, which was like also ridiculous and also brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't go to their like apartments or different places. And also it shows like this is a family that's very close knit, or at least they want
Mm-hmm.
to signal that they're
Yes.
close knit.
Yes. And what's also great too about them coming up to their different families is we get different reactions and different greetings, which then become the kind of like driving force for everything that happens after the inciting incident. Like we see Jesse and we see him come home and we see him like get greeted by his family.
Mm-hmm.
Where Calvin, the youngest son, he shows up and things are alone with the exception of like his Satanist friend who's been like house sitting his house. And instantly there is like, sexual tension between the two of them. And then Eli shows up and he comes home and he's actually literally alone. He doesn't have anybody else. So we actually see like this dissolving. We see like all three characters in a state of need towards something familial based.
Right.
Jesse with his own like uh need to keep his nuclear family together versus what his own actions are doing, his own his own shadow is doing. Calvin with the fact that he's a queer man and is in love with this other person, but he cannot express that, and so he has to keep this person there, but at a certain distance. And then Eli, who's lost that familiar place and is now sitting in a moment of like silence and alone and grieving and trying, and he's desperately trying to fill the hole that his wife has left. You know,
Right.
which for a comedy is incredibly dark and tragic.
Yeah, I mean, but I think when you peel back the layers of many comedies, you'll find those things. But it's just
Mm-hmm.
done with that comedic shtick, and
Mm-hmm.
Danny McBride does it in a way that's just very unique and different from a lot of shows that you'll see. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, that having him go meet his sons, and like this is the other thing, right? This is the one thing I've noticed about all of them is like they really value family.
Yeah, they
They
do.
really value family, which it can be a smokescreen for being a good person.
Right.
What happens when you see Jesse go and kiss his son? This beautiful cherubic white boy laid in the bed, sleeping on his back. And then you're like, oh, what a great dad. Then he goes to his other son and he kisses him, which he gets immediately greeted with the F word, which was ridiculous and hilarious. Um, but you find out
Yeah.
all you find out more things about like his family dynamics. So like he, like you said, each one of them are kind of struggling to maintain a family dynamic that
Mm-hmm.
is stable, and it's just not there. And
Yeah, yeah.
they
Like one of the sons is so it's so hilarious that not hilarious, but it's so interesting that like the idea of threes, the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, and also Jesse has three sons. So his one of the sons is missing, and and you can see that like as the sons get older, there seems to be like a realization and a disillusionment of like who he is as a father, and which causes them to rebel in some sort of capacity. Gideon leaves. The second son is like a foul mouth, and it calls him a bunch of like, uh, 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 homophobic slurs,
Right.
and then the youngest son is still young, so he's still just like a good kid.
Right. He hasn't
Um,
figured out that his dad isn't great yet. And
yes,
and he's not
yeah,
like he's probably gonna leave just like the other two.
just like the other ones. And but the funny thing too is the wife is completely disillusioned. Like
Yeah.
she is totally like, and you can get the sense that she's making an active choice to ignore certain things in order to maintain her position within the family,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely. I mean, look, that scene right after he comes back from talking to the boys and he's trying to have a conversation with her about like what he's gonna do. Like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna send him to South America. And she's like, yep, oh, that's fine. I support you. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I
Mm-hmm.
understand it's hard. Yeah, it's hard. So everything
Mm-hmm.
is always supportive, supportive, supportive.
Supportive.
But when
Yeah.
he gets these text messages that are, you know, showing basically trying to extort him,
Mm-hmm.
he gets to run away right then and there.
Mm-hmm.
And she asks what like any other white man. I just thought about like, man, if I ran out the house at night
At
and was
night,
just like, hey, I gotta go get something from the office real quick.
hell no.
First of all, I'm getting yelled at. Like, I'm gonna have to yell back. I'm gonna have to slam the door and leave.
Uh-huh.
And when I come back, my wife is gonna be right there at the door. Okay.
Yeah.
That's just, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't have it. Some of y'all might have that kind of life where you get to run out at night to go pick up something and come back.
No.
But that's just not the life I live.
No.
So like
Come back and the locks are going to be changed.
right. So like you just know like he has complete control over that family, but he doesn't
Right.
have any leadership also.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
there's also that going on. Uh who else are we meeting here? Uh oh yeah, Judy, right? So we got
Mm-hmm.
Judy with the cohabitating boyfriend. Judy is the funniest character in this entire.
Do you think so?
I think
She's your favorite?
she's my favorite. She is
That's
my
dope.
favorite,
Yeah.
100%. Everything she says is hilarious. She is. I feel like I've met some people like her where they're like scared of their dad, but want to get like they want to get support and love. Like they want
Mm-hmm.
also to
Mm-hmm.
be like respected, but they realize
Mm-hmm.
that they're gonna have to come outside of their character in order to be respected, and it just
Right. Right.
always falls flat.
Right.
Um, so yeah, she has a boyfriend BJ who is like very very.
And his name is BJ.
That's
That's
on
not a
purpose.
that's on purpose.
100% on purpose. And the guy who plays BJ is excellent too. I mean,
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
like he's just as I don't want to call him weak, but
He's weak. No, he's weak.
he's
And the
just a
thing about the thing about him, all of the love interests, all three of them, with the exception of actually hilariously the Satanist, all three of the most of the love interests are there because they're trying to get a touch of that wealth. And they have to contort and change themselves in order to like fit in with like the society and fit in with like the family. BJ literally has to like mutilate his face in that he believes so that way he can fit in. The wife is like Jesse's wife has is completely like subservient and like, basically ignores all of Jesse's like bad behavior in an effort to maintain the place in the family. It's only really the Satanist who still maintains a degree of like understanding of Satan
yeah.
and doesn't really shift like who he is as a person, with the exception of like him trying to clamp down on his homosexuality, that hasn't really shifted as much in order to be accepted by the family.
Yeah, which is, the 666 tattoos like faded off was a great detail.
Mm-hmm.
As clearly he's tried to get them removed,
Mm-hmm.
or he's like in the process of getting them removed, and he has like a couple
Mm-hmm.
more sessions to go. That
Mm-hmm.
was just a great detail.
um yeah, so Judy, she's trying to cohabitate with her boyfriend BJ. And but the big thing about Judy is like and BJ is that BJ is kind of like representing um not not left leaning
Yeah,
society, but kind of like center.
yeah, center left. leaning society as it can relate or as it can exist inside of like a right wing conservative Christian household.
Yeah. And
Um,
you can, and he's like the thing that's kind of pulling Judy away. Like his big hope is that him and Judy are able to move into the city. Granted, they'll move into the city with the family's money, so
yeah,
they
and a
can have a
penthouse.
nice and a penthouse. But that's kind of his hope, to get Judy away from the family and actually get, far away from them. So there is that kind of pull, which, the Eli is like, not about
Yeah, yeah. BJ is interesting. BJ doesn't eat meat. Um,
it. No, he believes
he
in them. He believes in abortion, even though he lies about
yeah, he believes in
it.
abortion. He also says he is proud to exclaim that the family is regressive at the dinner table.
Right.
So he's like an interesting character to me because he's willing to be controversial
Mm-hmm.
in this space, but he's also like if he ever gets attacked for it, he like he shrinks
He
completely.
shrinks. Yeah, he shrinks. Yeah. Yeah, he's got the spine of like a salamander.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like
Not quite a jellyfish, but definitely not like a fucking
yeah, he lacks complete self-awareness and like
yeah.
if he was smart, he would just keep his mouth shut completely.
Yeah.
Never say
Yeah.
anything.
If he actually wanted to do the thing that he wanted to do, he would keep his mouth shut. He would be basically Jesse's wife. But he doesn't, and I think that I think what that is also saying, that what the show is also saying, is the same the nature of gender within the society, that BJ feels like he has to say something, even though that's not going to get him what he wants. Where the wife feels like she has to not say anything, and that actually gets her what she wants.
That scene
What
that
she thinks, what the lie that she is telling her that she wants.
right. The scene at the dinner table, I mean the lunch table after church was so funny where
It's so
he
great.
was like, "You're regressive. You put women in the shadows. You don't give them anything to do." And then the wife pipes up and she says, "That is not true." Oh, I'm sorry, baby. Can I say something? And then he's
He
like,
goes,
"Go ahead." Yes, go ahead. Thank you. And then so she says her thing, right? And then BJ immediately apologizes for it as
then
if
he
he
made
was wrong,
apologizes.
which he was
Yeah,
right. But he
yeah.
apologizes, and then she says, and he goes, "I shouldn't have spoke." And she was like, "Man, you shouldn't have." Like, and then Judy comes back and says, "No, like no, don't apologize." It's like she's trying to get him to have the spine
Yeah,
of her dad, basically,
yeah,
and he just
yeah.
can't do it. It's just
You just can't do
that
it.
scene was just doing a lot, doing a lot.
Yeah. And the funny thing about it is, like, you were saying this about Judy in the beginning, that like in the past, Judy would have been like the super smart, held down because she's a girl, like Lisa Simpson kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you would have thought that, like, okay, she would have the spine that like BJ would lack, you know what I mean? But in fact, like, Judy is just as like spineless, and like, just as like she has just as many issues as everybody else. And so she in fact is not the one who's going to be the thing that's going to shift the family. Like, she's all she would like to be is her brothers. And she is being held down because she's a girl, but she's also being held down too because she's also an idiot.
You're right. Yeah, and but the funny thing is, in a way, she actually does end up. She saves the day in this episode,
She does,
right?
yeah, she does, yeah.
And then she does it when she does it at the end of the episode, where she finds the money, or she takes the money and she
Yeah,
uses it
she
to save her brother's life. While she's taking it out of the vent, she's explaining that her mom is the one who empowered her to
mhm,
to do these things. So like we have this specter of like the matriarchal figure that gave her the
mhm,
confidence, that, and now that she's gone, it's different. So there are so
right,
many different layers
right.
to what Danny McBride is doing in this writing.
But even then, right, even though she's the one who de facto saves the day,
Mm-hmm.
in a very kind of like Deus Ex Machina kind of way, like, oh my God, we actually have this
We do
money.
have money, yeah.
It in fact doesn't save the day, because at the end of the show, they actually create more problems for themselves, because Danny McBride, in his own hubris, then decides to like attack the guys, and try to murder them. So,
Right, right.
so even despite the fact, like, despite the fact that she's like she comes to them at the end of the day and tries to save it, they still are unable to actually follow through because of their own ego and hubris
Right.
and like,
And
you know,
clearly, and I haven't seen beyond this, but clearly that money has a story too, you
yes,
know, and
yeah,
taking that money is going to have its consequences as well.
gonna have its
So like
consequences. Yeah.
Danny, this was like a brilliant episode, and one punishing your protagonist, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also like, but thereforeing your plot all the way to the end, and also
Mm-hmm.
making solutions problems. Like
Mm-hmm.
solutions always lead to bigger problems.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
solution ends up leading to bigger problems, and
Yeah.
they're exciting. um they mean something to the plot, and they mean something
Yeah.
to the character, and they feel inevitable
Yeah.
in the episode. So that was like the thing beyond the second third watch that began to be to crystallize in my mind,
Yeah.
is that this show, and Danny McBride's writing specifically, is not only trying to be funny, not only trying to satirize something that we kind of all see in American culture, and
Mm-hmm.
especially in Southern culture, but is also like doing some really interesting craft things here,
Yeah.
with character, plot, and dramatic tension.
Well, and also like what I was about to say too is like it all has consequences. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the violence has consequences, and not in a sense of like not just in the plot, but also in the characters.
Oh
Like
yeah.
after they commit an act of violence, we see a shot of them in the car, the three of them, and they look visibly disturbed. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like what Jesse does on that videotape that gets him caught, the family like the brother and the sister react, and it's kind of hilarious. However, they also reacting in a way that like actually what you did is really incredibly fucked up. You know what I'm saying? Like, when that one dude starts crying that his wife's going to leave him, you know what I mean? Like we laugh at it because we're like, dude, that what you did is a colossally fucking stupid. But
Hmm.
we're also like, yo, these are some real consequences that are going to happen to these characters, I think that's what's so great about this, that it's not just like slapstick kind of like bullshit, like Family Guy,
Hmm.
American Dad kind of like stuff, and there's a room and a space for that kind of comedy. Like I'll put on American Dad and just sit there and watch them do weird fucking shit for 45 minutes. However, if we want to tell a story about humans that's going to last 3, 4, 5 seasons, that can keep people getting invested, they have to engage and react the way that humans react. And then we find the humor within that, you know what I mean? Within the true human reaction.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a scene. I mean, speaking of like, when I think about specific actions that characters take that signal things about who they are and what they're going to do. Like there was
Mm-hmm.
a back to that, back to the lunch scene, right?
Right.
So it blows up, and this was such a brilliant scene too, with what it was doing with the characters and the plot, and the overall story. But um Kelvin Kelvin tries to call out Jesse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they're like, why don't you tell him what kind of man you really are? He's trying to signal, and immediately Jesse stands up, and like he has to blow it up now, right? Because he can't
Mm-hmm.
admit, he can't give credence to this, so now he has to blow it up and get violent. So that happens. That's happening at the table, but then he accidentally hits BJ in the face with something, and when he does, he backs off and says, "Oh my God, I didn't mean to do that." Right?
Right. Right.
Like he hates BJ. He calls him a
Mm-hmm.
wisp of a man, but he does not want to cause him violence.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes. Yes.
so when you see that scene and you see him react like that, the turn at the very end becomes way more impactful, right? When he comes back
Mm-hmm.
around, and like when when Judy accidentally hits the person,
Right.
he switches the car. One, it felt like he was doing that because he wanted to take over and protect his sister.
Right.
But then when he goes back and does that act of violence, it shows like, okay, this is a person who, when he accidentally hits his soon-to-be brother-in-law, he's completely apologetic and backs off,
Uh-huh.
even though he's already blown up the entire lunch.
Right. Right.
He completely backs off. But when he is met and threatened with his livelihood, he's willing to kill.
Yes, yeah, yeah, and it is just that much more like like blown up by the fact that like that sequence in which he's trying to kill that guy is so fucking long. He like
It's
chases him.
hilariously long because he's in reverse. That's
He's in
all,
reverse
and
chasing this
he's
guy
chasing
down
somebody in reverse in a circle,
in a circle.
which
And
is
so
so
there's
funny.
it's not you could tell this is like not an act of passion. Like at any point in time he can be like, you know what, let me stop. But he like drives this man down in reverse and rolls
Guys,
over his body like twice.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was shocking. It
It was
was
very shocking. Yeah.
hilarious. It was just and another way when I talk about shock and awe, when the way you end an episode, that's the way you end an episode of. That's the way you end a pilot, man. For real.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Absolutely. Let's talk about a bit of the ABC stories because we're missing because we got into like a lot of the kid stuff. I
Yeah.
think when we talk about the ABC stories, we'll talk a little bit about Eli. Um, what do you got for your ABC stories?
Yeah, ABC stories. My A story is Jesse's story when
Yep,
Jesse
mine
gets
too.
a text message to extort him. He must do everything he can to fix the problem underneath the nose of his father.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. And that happens exactly at minute 10, minute 10, minute 12. It's your sighting incident.
Mm-hmm.
It's the inciting incident for the entire season. Um, it also I think it signals who this story is actually about. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Jesse's story.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
my B story, because I agree with your A, is actually Eli and the new prayer center. So Eli's new prayer center in Locust Grove causes tension with the local community of ministers.
Yeah. I actually my B story was Eli, but it was different. It was like
Mm-hmm.
Eli. It was essentially the entire umbrella of that. Well, I'll say I switched it. That was the C. That was my C. My B
Mm-hmm.
story was Eli is reeling after the death of his wife, trying to keep his
Ah,
family together.
that was my C.
That was your C.
Yeah, that was my C. So
Yeah,
we just switched them both.
yeah. We just flipped them, and then there was kind of a weird, not runner, but there was this kind of a weird scene, um, which was held by Jesse's wife.
Mm-hmm.
Right before
Oh yeah,
they revealed
yeah.
the show or the video or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that wasn't a necessary. Obviously, it wasn't a story, and it wasn't even really a runner, but it was. I don't know. It was just something to like signal that this character might have something that might continue on.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and also like she has power in her own space, but she doesn't have
Mm-hmm.
power when her husband is around or when she's around the gemstones, right?
Yeah, I think it also is a good example of like how gender works in this society and with this family. And then it also signals that like you're right that she has power and that she is the de facto like matriarch within like the circle of women within this community. And we don't know what Eli's wife was, like what the dynamic of the family was without it. We just see where the family is now that she's gone.
Right.
And so we can feel her absence, even though we haven't exactly seen exactly what she was and how she actually moved and how she engaged with her kids and with her daughter-in-law and this, that, and the third. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we also get a little hint of it as Eli's like watching the video of like past, you know, sermons that he would do with his wife and how young he looked and how much joy he had in his face, which is like in comparison to his other big sermon, which, you know, there's a notable lack of joy. There's a notable like him going through the motions. There's a notable like performative element to it.
Right.
Um, it seems like the loss of her has been not just like devastating to the Gemstones as a financial institution, but it's also been devastating to Eli in terms of like what he has dedicated his life towards, like his passion for, you know, his calling. You know what I'm saying? He is clearly a man who is deeply depressed,
Yeah. Yeah.
deeply.
Yeah. There's some there's I love, and I mentioned this in the podcast a lot. It's like I really love like a theme stated moment or
Mm-hmm,
like a
mm-hmm,
character motivation that you can shoehorn into a line and actually
Mm-hmm.
say it out loud. And I thought that there was a moment. It's not my coldest line, but it is a line that I want to flag for Eli, where they're sitting around the memorial of their mother, and his wife, and he says, like, his kids are going back and forth and bantering and yelling at each other, and he goes, the family is lost. Your mama kept everybody together, kept everybody getting along, and now she's gone. And so, like, that line by itself, it seems like, okay, that's out of the it could be out of the blue. Why would he say something so specific about what this family is, and signal like exactly what we need to know about this family? But it makes so much sense in the context of the episode, the context of that particular scene, and also like what the characters need to hear, like what Kelvin and Jesse needed to hear to kind of drive continue to drive the plot forward, right?
Yes. Yeah.
um so, and there was another moment like that too. I know we mentioned this before around Keith, right? So I thought this was brilliant. I thought this was when the double dragon. This is so funny how Danny McBride does it. It's like it's so funny and so stupid, and then like when it when it hits you, like when it hit me, it was like, this is brilliant. So where he talks about double dragons in the bathroom, like he's it's like his last ditch effort to get his brother on board, and he talks about double dragons. What happened, man? We used to be want to be double dragons, man.
Right.
Like, what happened? We used to love each other. And he's like, because like being karate brothers from a video game is a like stupid dream, right?
Right.
So he goes back home, like when Kelvin goes back home, and Jesse is like talking about this video game. He delivers this like random speech about this video game and Satan, which is
Mm-hmm.
in line with his character and like
Mm-hmm.
completely like it has complete context.
Mm-hmm.
But what it signaled to Kelvin is like video games have power, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
video games do have power. They're not silly kid games. And like it
Mm-hmm.
somehow that inspired him to like help save his brother, which was, I just thought all of that was just so smart.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like a that sequence with the Satanist talking about the devil, it seems like just like a throwaway, funny, weird comedy beat. But the way that you put it, the fact that like, Kelvin is like, as he's listening, is staring at the Double Dragons game, which he has in his
Yeah.
house, after Jesse has said to him, like, hey, bro, all we wanted to be was Double Dragons. And he actually like bought the actual arcade thing to
Yeah.
have in his house, and he's staring at it and he's listening to this long rambly speech about like how video games have the power of like really shifting people's mentality. It's yeah, it's just like subtle, so subtle, but also
So
like
subtle.
once again, like we said, like there's no such thing as like banter on TV. You don't have time. You can't just have characters just talking out their ass. It all has to be driven towards the plot to move forward. And
Yeah.
you know
Don't sleep on Danny McBride.
No,
Please do
I am
not sleep
not.
on Danny McBride. That dude
I
is
am not.
that dude
He
is a genius.
he
I
is
will say
sick.
it.
He knows how to make some TV.
He
He
knows how to
really
write.
knows.
He's a
He
hell of a
knows how to
writer.
write. Yeah, he knows how to write.
So yeah, there were so many of those moments I wanted to flag, especially in a screenwriting podcast, about
Yeah,
what Danny McBride is doing and why I was like
yeah,
blown away after watching this a couple times. But those were a
yeah.
couple of moments. Like, again, the scene where we see violence and a reaction of a character's violence, and then an act of violence towards the
Mm-hmm.
end. Like
Mm-hmm.
how to connect um, the importance of a video game, a childhood video game,
Mm-hmm.
to making a character, motivating a character's
Mm-hmm.
actions to drive us to the plot.
Right.
Just brilliant.
Well, also, speaking of violence, is the escalation of violence too. So, like, Danny McBride, when he first decides to like handle the blackmail, he pulls out a
Oh my God.
a a pressure point keychain metal rod that he bought at a truck stop, and he
Yes.
buys like four of these to give to his homies.
But why does he do that? Why does he do that? Because he doesn't want it to have like why can't I think of the word about the he doesn't want to kill anybody, basically. He wants to use a weapon that can't kill somebody,
Yes,
right?
yes. Yeah.
So
And
again, this is all leading up to this final moment. But yeah,
the fact that he actually actively killed somebody,
right.
and the fact also that like he is greeted this like action of like of relatively, non-lethal violence by a shotgun.
By shotgun. Right, exactly. No, this is all right. I think you're right. Yeah, with the escalation of violence,
Hmm.
you see a guy who's all like all bluster. He's bloated.
Yeah.
He's a
Yeah.
blowhard.
Lives in a
He
fantasy.
yeah,
Double
he hit
Dragons lives in
somebody
a
with a
fantasy. Yeah.
he hit somebody with a cup and then like apologizes to
Hmm.
somebody who he hates. Then like when he's tasked with actually doing something violent,
Hmm.
he does it with a non-lethal tool and
Yeah.
then is
A
met like
useless tool.
a useless tool. What actually no, it's not useless. He actually did use it at the end. He stabbed old buddy in the neck
Oh
to
yeah, that's right.
incapacitate him, which is also hilarious. But yeah, he brought a knife to a gunfight, right? And then he got
Hmm.
shot.
Yeah.
So
Well,
then,
the funny thing, but that's the funny thing about the righteous gemstones is like, yes, like things happen to them, but it's actually the people that are around them that get the most amount of the actual fallout. Like
right.
BJ is the one who gets hit by the cup and breaks his nose, and then BJ has that line where he's like, "Oh, I think I'm gonna try to get Jesse to pay for this," and Judy says, "He'll never do that. You probably should use your own money."
She said, yeah,
Like,
she said, yeah, that's a good idea first. She was like, yeah, that's a good idea. And then she comes back around, and was like, yeah, he's actually never gonna do that. You should probably use your own money.
so it's the folks that are around him that are around them that actually it's like the wave pool thing, man. It's like their actions, the people who probably were like the most hurt by the wave pool were all the poor Chinese people in the wave pool. It
Yep.
wasn't the righteous gemstones. The people that are getting hurt are the sycophants that are around them. BJ, that other fat guy who gets shot in the stomach. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like those are they're like not just incompetence, but they're like it's so not to it's so interesting that this was made in 2019 towards the end of homie's first term, and what we are seeing currently right now and who's being affected. That's all I'm going to say about politics. That's all I'm
You can say
going
what you
to
want to say
say.
about politics, man. Go off, please.
It's just very it's I don't think it's Brand Danny McBride is way too smart for that not to be the case.
I mean, like I said, I gained a whole new respect for the guy reading the script and watching this episode and breaking it down. So
Yeah.
yeah.
The very last thing I want to bring up before we should probably shift to our segments
Mm-hmm.
is the comparison between the Podunk ministers and the megachurch.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah. Yeah.
when they show up, we see the megachurch, which is we also get this like montage of like the museum, which is such a great way for us to get like a lot of like exposition dumps about the family.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, what's really great about the museum is because we're seeing the museum through the eyes of like someone who has curated the museum. We're actually seeing how people
How they
see the
see
gemstone,
themselves, how they want to be seen.
how they want to be seen, but also how they want to be seen and how people probably see them, which helps us because we're getting the behind the scenes stuff. So we're like, how the fuck are these people like so rich and famous? But through that museum kind of thing, we actually see like, oh, actually, there's a lot of folks who actually believe in these people,
Mm-hmm.
actively believe in these people. So I think that was such a great thing. As we get into the mega church, which is like this huge extravagant kind of thing, we get four like ministers from the local community who are coming in who are basically saying like, hey, if you build it, it's like Walmart and small businesses. They're
Yeah.
like, if you
This
build
was
this wall,
this is a very
this,
much a meeting of the five families type of thing.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like we're
yeah,
going to see the Godfather real quick. You
yeah,
know.
yeah. And they come in and they're basically like, hey, if you build this church, it's gonna fuck our thing up. And John Goodman is such. I know that John Goodman is getting old. I just wish that we got a really good John Goodman like mafia story, because
Oh yeah.
like that
Oh yeah.
speech he gives to them about like, you got this amount of followers and you got this amount of followers, and if I were to build it here, then I'm not gonna get that much followers, but if I get all four of your followers, then that's gonna be worth our time.
Yeah. This was
It
I
was
drink your
so
milkshake.
cold. Yes.
This was this was Godfather. This was There Will Be Blood. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. There
But
was
it's
a
also
lot.
it was so who are those what's those directors
Coen
who
Brothers.
did this? It was so Coen Brothers.
Yeah.
It was so because that's something that you will pull like from there, like yeah, like you said, from
Oh, you
No
talking about
Country for
No
Old
Country?
Men.
There was No Country. It
Yeah.
was a Western. It was Western. It was gangster.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of things going on there. Yeah, yeah. That was also
Yeah.
brilliant. That was another thing I noticed about this. It was like this is borrowing a lot from Western and gangster crime
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
drama
Mm-hmm.
as well, but it's like so broad comedy at the same time, which is also
Yes.
brilliant.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome.
But yeah, let's go ahead and take a break and then come back with more the episode one show covering the Righteous Gemstones. And we're back with the episode one show covering the Righteous Gemstones.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Yo, yeah, it's so interesting. Like I really didn't expect to enjoy this pilot this much. I really didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen
Yeah.
it before, and I remember being shocked at the ending
Mm-hmm.
specifically, but I just still didn't like after digging deeper into it, like I just didn't expect it. Um, but this was a lot of fun so far.
Mm-hmm.
But now
Yeah.
let's get into the segments. All right. So I want to hear your coldest lines, but pick your favorite. I have a couple.
I got my coldest line is I think it's Eli who says this. Yeah, he says this to one of the Podunk ministers. He says, "Did you ever think that the followers who come to us didn't you ever think that the followers who come to us they weren't your followers to begin with?" And then he finishes off with, all praise be to he.
Praise be to he.
Well, that's the end of this the final confrontation between him and the
Oh,
leader of the
seasons. Yeah.
the leader of the Podunk ministers. And he just because before it's like it's very kind of like passive aggressive and then kind of like slightly overtly aggressive, very like double speak, this kind of stuff. And then he finally just flat out and says, like, listen, dude, like
It's not
we
gonna
just
happen.
have a better operation than you do. So I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. It's not gonna work.
It ain't
Uh
gonna work.
Side note, real quick. Johnny Seasons, the whitest man, like the whitest, regularest white man of all time. I mean,
Should we start a new segment called Who's the Whitest White Man of the show?
I mean, think about it. Like he was sitting down at dinner. His wife brought him a cup of milk, which he then downed. And I'm like, milk for dinner is the whitest thing ever. And then he goes into a shed at night because to wind down, he likes to do woodwork
He
and
likes to
see
do woodwork. And not only that, but when he discovers that they're trespassers, he like gets all Punisher on you. Like he turns off the light.
like he got excited
Yeah, he like eyes the
when he looked
shotgun.
at a
Like
shotgun, he got hype.
I,
Like I'm about to kill a motherfucker today.
I think we should add a new segment, the Johnny Seasons Award.
The Johnny Seasons Award.
Who is the whitest white man on the show?
The whitest white man in the pilot.
We have the Ducks Award,
We do.
and I think we can have the Johnny Seasons from every once in a while.
Yeah, I love it. Johnny Seasons Award. All right, so yeah, the my coldest line was actually I had a couple. I'm gonna name the lines because I like them, but
Mm-hmm.
I'll pick my favorite. So uh, I loved everything Judy said, which is gonna signal my Asia Wilson Award. Clearly,
Mm-hmm.
Eddie Patterson. I'm jumping ahead is my Asia Wilson Award, but I'll give her
Nice.
one of my coldest lines, which when Eli was like, "Why you can't don't laugh at that, Judy?" And she was like, "I wasn't laughing at that. I was laughing at some funny vids of animals acting like fools."
Yeah, that's right. And then I think
Oh,
no. This was because there's two video conversations that they have because
yeah,
she says that, and when Danny McBride goes like, they're when he like is finally about to confess, and he's like, there was a
yeah,
video, and then he side bails at the last minute, and they
yeah,
ask him what kind of video, and he and he says something similar.
yeah. And she goes, "What, like a motion picture?" He goes, "A YouTube's." So
She's
funny.
killing it. Eddie Patterson is killing
She
it.
killed it. But I got one more, and it was
Yeah.
when it was when Kelvin was like, "You got a lot of nerve when you've been prancing upon my nerves, the way you've been prancing upon my nerves." And he was like, "Prancing upon my nerves." He's like, "You've been getting on my nerves." He said, "You've been moonwalking on my nerves, just dancing all upon them." Like this
Prancing
is
on my nerves sounds like something like your auntie will say to you,
prancing
like when she
upon them though. That's the
upon the.
upon the nerves.
But that does. It sounds like something your auntie would say to you, like
It
when you're
does.
like 8 years old and you've been hopped up on like Skittles, and
Yep.
she's like, and she's like your church going auntie,
Hmm.
and she's just, but she gave you Skittles because she only see you like twice, 3 times a year, and but she's getting real annoyed.
Yep. Yep. Loves you. Just wants you to
Loves
calm
you,
down.
but you prancing upon her nerves.
You're prancing upon nerves. So yeah, my still goes to funny vids of animals acting like fools was just
That's a
hilarious.
pretty good one. That's a pretty good one. Since you did your Asia Wilson, I have a Steph Curry. My Steph Curry goes Danny McBride. You know, he's gonna be on the Mount Rushmore, I think, of like prestige comedy TV.
Yeah,
You know,
got
I
to.
think you
I
got to put
mean,
him up there. You
director,
got to put
actor,
him,
and writer.
yeah, you got to put him up there with Curb. What's his name? Oh man, uh, what's the Curb guy's name?
But why did you do that to me? It is
You
now
you
just
don't know, you don't remember the Curb guy's name either? Jesus Christ. Oh no. This is
why
me
did you
turning
do
38.
that?
This is me turning 38. That
I was gonna say he's just pushing 40.
we have forgotten the Curb Your
Oh, don't.
Enthusiasm, dude.
Oh God.
And when I find out and I say his name, we're gonna be pissed, Larry David.
Oh my God. It was not gonna come to me though. Why did that happen to me? Look, look.
I
Early
don't
morning.
know.
I'm gonna blame it on early morning recording. That's what I'm
I
gonna do.
don't know. We just had a whole conversation about how we need to be more like
On top of it,
more
but it's the
on top of
morning,
it.
man. It's the
It's the
morning.
morning.
I'm blaming it
Anyway,
on the morning.
he gonna be up there with like Larry David. You know what I mean? He gonna be up there with all the other ones. I'm not even gonna try to think because I can't think of the other names.
Yeah, but shout out to Danny McBride. Like I said, UNCSA alum, fighting pickles, um, holding it down for the South. Yeah, love Danny
Yeah,
McBride.
awesome,
Love Danny
awesome,
McBride.
awesome.
All right, what you got
Uh,
for your Juneteenth award?
my Juneteenth goes to Gregory Allen Williams, who plays the Kenyon Martin.
Kenyon
He,
Martin. Sorry, that's a basketball player's name.
oh, is it?
Yeah, sorry.
Uh, he actually low key is like an amazing black journeyman. I was doing a little research into his career, and he was like on Remember the Titans and The Sopranos and like Chicago Med, and like this brother has been working for like 40, 45,
Yeah,
like a
he
long
looks
ass time,
really
you
familiar.
know.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen
He's
him so many times.
he's got okay, we I'm not to keep throwing out awards, but he gets the Bokeem Woodbine Award of like I
Oh,
I
love
know
Bokeem
like
Woodbine.
I know that nigga.
Yeah, but
I seen him
at
before.
this point, Bokeem Woodbine, first of all, he has such well to my American ears, such a unique name.
Mm-hmm,
But he's been that guy for so long that black people
mm-hmm.
know his name now. Like
Now black,
you know what I mean?
yes,
Like
yes.
he's not
Now
even a
black
that
people know.
guy anymore because we know him now
We
in the
know
black
him
community.
in the black community. However, white folks don't. So white folks be like, I've seen that guy before.
Right,
I know
right.
who is that guy? He was,
And then the
he was
one
in
black
that
guy in the group is gonna say Bokeem Woodbine.
Bokeem Woodbine.
And they're gonna be like, "What? How do you know his
Who was
name?"
that? Yes,
Yeah,
Bokeem
because it's two
Woodbine.
Americas. That's why.
So this brother, he not only does he get a Juneteenth, he also gets the Bokeem Woodbine Award about you
All
know.
right, Indiana Jones Award to the kid. So something that we do need to qualify because this is kind of a new award. Indiana Jones Award goes to the character or characters who could not possibly be black, could only be a white man or a woman. So,
Before I do that, I'm also going to give Gregory Allen Williams the Dokes Award because he does hate on Jesse.
oh, he
Um,
does. He does do a little hating on the main character. He does. He does get a
so he
dose.
gets 3 awards: the
Yeah, good
Juneteenth,
job.
the Boku. Good job, brother.
Good job.
He gets the trifecta. He gets the triple crown. My Indiana Jones Award goes to the Righteous Gemstones. The whole lot of them. There's no possible. Now, granted, there was a movie about of
Yes.
a black Christian family. So
Like
there is,
Save Your Soul,
yeah,
something with Jesus, Save Your Soul, Issa Rae
yeah.
produced.
But that, what's interesting about that is that the nature of their problems is different from the nature of the Righteous Gemstones. So I would argue that the Righteous Gemstones, none of them, any of them, could be black.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, and I can see like those two pieces of media could exist in the same universe. Like he could be
Mm-hmm,
one of those podunk preachers. Like he could be
mm-hmm.
one of those easily.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, to be who could be like who couldn't be could only be white. It's tough. Yeah, I mean, to me, yeah, I
I
think you're
don't.
right. Yeah,
There's no. They could. They don't. They can't even have like. They can't even have like a black great. These are like.
these
These
are
are
white
some.
people.
These are white white people.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe BJ could be black, and BJ could have been black, but that would send the dynamic into a whole nother.
A whole different.
And in
Yeah.
fact, he probably couldn't be
No, he
with
can't.
the things that his character does in this
No.
episode. Like it just wouldn't
No.
work.
And Judy would never do that. Like she would never even, and I imagine that Judy probably is attracted to black men. You know, I bet you all three of the kids are probably attracted to black people. They just never would allow themselves to do that because Eli is a racist.
Absolutely,
He might
absolutely.
hire black people, he might have black people in his congregation, but you know he said the N-word.
Oh yeah, he says it. He
He
says it
says it.
still.
He says it in his mind.
Oh
He
yeah,
says it. He walks down the street and hits his. He walks down the street and just probably whispers it silently to himself.
yeah. All right. So is this good pilot, mid pilot, bad pilot, game changing pilot? What do you got?
I think it's a great pilot. I don't think it's game changing purely because this is like it's the height of prestige TV. I don't think it is was all that real kind of like earth shattering in terms of like eyes and Nielsen ratings. There's enough people to watch it, and Danny McBride has enough capital that it's gone. I think 4 seasons, 5 seasons.
I want to say this is
Which
fifth. I want to say.
fifth seasons, which in this era, prestige TV is huge. That the fact that it was able to go 5 seasons, through it got through the pandemic, you
Mm-hmm.
know, into this like recession that is now being caused by our current president. So like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a colossal achievement, this show, just in and of itself. But I don't think it is as game changing. Even though I do say what I think we're both realizing is that it should be piece of a piece of text that should be studied.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is a great episode of TV to analyze in school for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yes.
and to be broken down the way we did it, except
Mm-hmm.
with maybe more seriously.
More seriously, less cussing,
Yeah,
but not. But as black,
as
I
black,
say, I say our black ass analysis is it should be. We should teach a Yale course of black ass analysis.
I would love to. Be brilliant. Excellent. All right. So what are you
We'll just
watching?
go through the Boking Woodbine Award for the history of TV.
Right. Each one of our awards we really could break down and have like a lecture on. I say.
We should do that one day. We should just do like a segments episode, and if we ever like don't know what to watch, we should just sit down and just like have a segment episode
I'm
and
down.
do like segments per decade or something.
Yeah. Do like a half hour segments episode. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. So what you watching currently? What are you watching?
I wrapped up Severance. I controversially do not feel the way that a lot of people feel. I had a great time. I know a lot of
Oh
people
yeah,
like,
I
yeah,
liked
a
it.
lot of, yeah, I liked it. A lot of people were like, is this gonna be lost? And then I'm like, and someone said
Yes.
this. Yeah, and someone said this. I think it was some Ringer podcast. I gotta stop listening to the Ringer because they warp my way of seeing things.
They
But
do.
they were like,
Yeah.
somebody said this. They were like, why not? Lost was the biggest fucking TV for like a decade or some shit.
Yeah.
Why not have it be like Lost? Why is everyone being like, well, I don't want it to be like Lost. I don't want to.
People have a
I
bad
it's that's not a
people have a
bad
bad
comp.
memory of Lost because of the way it ended and the way like the last maybe 3 seasons made them feel. Like they kind of it's like they walked into the forest and they thought that there was a way out and then they realized that there
Who
wasn't.
cares? It's about the ride. It's about how we felt
I
at
agree.
the time. And all of us in this era of TV, where there is no such thing as a water cooler show, have a water cooler show. We're all watching it and enjoying it. And we got the silly ass like brother dancing memes on all of our Instagrams. And silly, and we sing songs to the theme song. Let's enjoy the ride, y'all. We don't get disappointed before you're disappointed.
Don't get disappointed before you're disappointed. It's actually good. It's enjoyable. Why are
It's
we
enjoyable.
anticipating something to not be fun? I mean,
Jesus
it's
Christ.
fun. It's fun right now.
And then people are pissed because they like are shipping relationships, and they're like, well, I really wanted him to get with his wife and not with her. And I'm like,
Do you know how TV works?
it's TV.
He's not going to
If
get
he
with
if he got with his
anything.
wife, the
It'll be
story would be
over.
over.
It'll be
He
over.
has to go back because they have a
Go back.
season 3. If he walked out of the door, that'd be the end of the series. But he goes back in so they can have a season 3. You Lord have mercy. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm watching that. I'm watching White Lotus, which I'm not enjoying White
Please
Lotus.
don't spoil. I
I'm
haven't
not
seen a
spoiling it. I'm
recent
not spoiling it.
episode.
All
Okay.
all I'm saying is like I'm not enjoying White Lotus as much as like I'm actually enjoying some of the analysis of White Lotus. And then I started watching Solo Leveling, which is an anime, which is fucking fire, bruh. And
Okay.
I think I'm gonna give you my Crunchyroll, my brother's Crunchyroll account, not mine. My brother's Crunchyroll account, so that way we can watch the first episode of Solo Leveling and do that on the show because that show is fucking lit.
Okay. I'm into it.
That's
I'm into it.
that's
I
what I'm
will
watching.
watch it. I'm watching I'm actually waiting to watch the last episode of White Lotus. But my partner is not gonna let me until we're in the same room and have the time to watch it
See,
together. So yeah,
that's love right there. That's
yeah,
love.
I'm waiting. So White Lotus, I finished up Common Side Effects, which did
Nice.
get a season 2, which I'm really excited about. I loved
Hey.
it. It had a little soggy midsection, but it delivered in the end. I love the final episode, the season finale. And what else am I watching? Oh man, I know I'm supposed to watch Adolescence. Everybody's been saying. You know what? I actually picked up.
Oh yeah, Adolescence is fire,
I
bro.
heard, I heard. But I'm trying to actually I have time now since I have a little weekend to watch it. So I'll probably sit down and watch it now. And then the other thing I watched is it's called A Thousand Blows on Hulu.
Oh, I
Have
don't
you heard
know.
of it?
Mm-mm.
It's interesting. It's kind of like it's England, it's London set in the 1880s or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. There's a black guy who's Jamaican, there's a white woman who has a band of thieves, and then there's boxing and shit like that. I don't know. It's pretty good though. We'll see what happens.
Nice. Oh, I've heard of the show. It's like, yeah, it's like bare knuckle boxing, but it's actually about this woman, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yep.
Dope, dope.
Mm-hmm.
So I know what we're doing next is gonna be The Last of Us.
Yep.
So if y'all are listening, get and watch The Last of Us before next week. And then to force you to watch Adolescence after Last of Us, we're gonna do Adolescence.
Okay. Yeah. Down.
Just to force you to watch that pilot.
I will watch it. I will watch it. I'll probably watch the whole thing this
You should.
weekend.
I think it's like 3 episodes or 4 episodes or something. It's like short as fuck, but
I'm probably gonna binge Last of Us this weekend though.
I gotta
Gotta
get
get
through
ready.
Last of Us.
Gotta get ready
Yeah,
for the
but
season 2. You didn't like it?
the way I feel about Last of Us is the way I feel about House of the Dragon, which is the way I feel about eating salad.
That's
I have
hilarious.
to. I feel like I have to, but if I had it, I would just eat a hamburger.
Oh man, I want a hamburger so bad right now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Now my pescatarian ass wants to eat a burger.
Don't
I
don't.
won't.
We're
I
doing it
won't.
for our mental health. We're
I
eating
know.
healthy for our mental
I
health.
know it. I know it. Anyway, well, thank you all for listening to the episode 1 show. We really, really appreciate you. We dropped all the normal like follow us and stuff at the very beginning of the episode. But again, follow our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/the episode 1 show. You can follow us on Instagram and Threads at the episode 1 show. Also subscribe to our YouTube. We're finally on YouTube.
You can see our handsome ass faces.
Yeah, and our awesome t-shirts that we
And
wear
awesome
just for
t-shirts.
you.
YouTube.
Even though you haven't been able to see them. So yeah, take some time, subscribe to our YouTube page. We appreciate you. And as Elijah says at the end of every episode,
Hallelujah. Peace.